All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Amber, for the awesome work that you've prepared for us. And without further ado, we will bring it to you. I mean, I think Amber Long goes without any introduction. Everybody in the scene knows her. She knows her dedication to this electronic music scene that we have. All right, Amber, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me. This is like something that I have wanted to share for a long time. So it's kind of, you know, coming onto this Tech Talk is exactly the same way as it feels when you hit record and you go to press record to record vocals or to record a set or something. There's always something that you have to just like take a deep breath and get over. So if there's any technical issues, I apologize. I apologize profusely, bear with me, but I do have some stuff prepared for you. I have some Ableton sessions to show you. Robert made a beautiful video. I think it's really big though. So when I was trying to add it, it was like making Zoom crash. So we're gonna play it for you at the end, something that he did with my vocals, and I have different examples and you can ask me anything you want. So here, I made you a PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully you can see this, guys. Can you see my little PowerPoint here? Yeah, excellent. Okay, and you can hear me okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Excellent, okay. So today we're going to talk about vocals. And these are kind of the things that I had in mind, because it's not just the technical, you know, it's not just the technical. You're actually dealing with human beings as well. So it's not just a synth. There's feelings involved, and there's somebody pushing for that with you. So these are some of the points. Do you need a vocal in your tune? Why do you want one? How to find one, you know, the right one, not just any vocal, because you can find those anywhere. You can find the vocalist, and when you work out the details and everything, there's some stuff that we can go through about working out the details. And I'm going to show you my little at-home gear for on the go or when I'm traveling. So if I have work to do on the road, I'm going to show you how simple it can be. And then I talked to Waxman and Robert Mason, who have worked with my vocals a lot, and they're very deeply, profoundly into electronic production. I'm going to go very basic as far as vocal production and doing vocals today. So these guys kind of gave a little bit more insight on the more technical Ableton producer side of things. Okay, so I'm going to take the vocalist side and we'll share some of their stuff there. And then lastly, I'm going to share my vocal process with you. I did have tons of notes, but I actually threw them out. I have a whole outline. I have all of my answers to all of these questions. So if you actually like documents and you like to read documents as much as I love to write documents, you can send me a message and I will send you like all my notes just so that we don't miss anything. I don't know. I'll probably.
And we can send it out to all the attendees afterwards, along with the vocals, if that's
perfect. Easy. You gave away the secret. You gave away the surprise, Peter.
Sorry.
I know I kind of alluded to it and everything, but all right. So anywhere throughout here, Peter and Nick are going to kind of, I don't have the chat up on the side, but if you have a question, you know, we're going to stop a little ways through and you can ask me anything about vocals. Let's not get too personal or anything, but you can ask me anything about vocals, you know, random things, random. And if I don't know the answer, I will get back to you. I will find out, and I'll be very honest. I'm not going to lead you astray or anything like that. I'm going to be very honest, just as much as I want you to be. Like, send me a message and, you know, ask us, because probably you're not the only person wondering like the answer to that question. So, all right, our first one, do you need a vocal in your track and why do you want one? All right. So I'm going to put my phone over here because it keeps going off. Why do you want a vocal? Do you want to make a vocal track? You know, because this is like something really serious. Some people, they're like, I want to make a vocal track. So they know that they have a process in place. Maybe they have a reference track in mind. They're literally going to make a vocal track. That is their mission. That is their vision. And there's a process to that from start to finish. But then there's the flip side. And this is also the side that vocalists in electronic music are going to come across, is a producer makes a great tune, but because he might find it, he or she, sorry, I'm going to just say he, just he, I can be a he anyway. However the producer wants it, he thinks that something's missing. It could be a synth, it could be a lead, it could be perks, it could be a variety of things, but somehow this producer has it in their head that it should be a vocal. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So that's why I'm asking you to ask the question. Are you out to make a vocal tune, or are you out to put a vocal in a tune to make your tune sound different or better? So let me see. I have a couple examples here because for myself, usually within the first few bars, I can hear if the track can breathe, okay? And by breathe, I mean a lot of the progressive stuff out there right now. Techno would be really easy kind of to sing to because it really breathes. There's a lot of space in between the sounds, but sometimes with progressive house or deep house or something with a lot of pads, instrumentation and stuff like that, the tune is really dense already. So when you listen to it, the first thing you think is, okay, I could give it like oohs and ahs and stuff like that. But the words, it might take a little bit because you're so overwhelmed by all the other sounds. So I do think that a good quality, whether you know you're looking to make a vocal track or whether you have a tune and you think it's missing something, actually see if your track can breathe, okay? Let me see, I think I have, you might laugh at my examples here, guys. Yes, here it is. Okay, I have an example from before and I have an example from now. So I do have, let me see, I'm gonna see. I pulled up, all right. I did pull up these songs. You probably know them. There, we're gonna keep that. Sorry. Here, I'm gonna pull them up. Do you guys know these songs? Corona, Rhythm of the Night?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
No. Classic.
Classic. Okay. So here, bear with me. I have to actually go into Google because when everything was crashing, guys, yeah, here. Oh, Rhythm of the Night. There we go. Well, maybe that's not it. Here we go. So this is the example.
The rhythm of the night, oh yeah, the rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of my life, oh yeah, the rhythm of my life.
Stacy? That track is probably like 130, 128 BPM, 130 BPM, but it still has room that you can breathe, okay? There's still room for the vocals, and the vocals really take center stage because the song all the way through is really, really simple. So I'm gonna look up.
Amber, is the vocal halftime?
They actually, you know what? They have made so many different versions of this one. This one with the 176 million views, I'm thinking is the original. And that one, I I literally like was raving to this in 92. This would be like integral beginning of vocals for me, I guess you could say.
Cool. I just meant how do they keep the vocal from like being so slow compared to the track being so fast?
I think that one is real time. I actually think that one is real time. There are ways of doing it in Ableton that I can show you later where we can actually keep the sound of the vocal intact and make it go and beat, like have it go with the beat of the music without it sounding like some of the remixes. You can hear it where they took it and it pitches it down. No. There are ways of having it in Ableton or any DAW that you use that you keep the pitch and you just have it go to whatever tempo you're working with.
Got it.
So here I have a little East Side Jacob Plant. These are, I love, okay, this one is, this one with Soren Bryce. It's a really standout, like more recent one. It's from a couple years ago, but another example of, I really think that this track wouldn't be the same if it didn't have the vocal in it. So this is something where it has space to breathe and, yeah.
I think I hate LA. No one heard me up in New York, telling me to stay like I got nothing else to live for. Bird in the cage, but is alive. That part of me is died.
It's really simple.
I'm on the east side, living that city life, trying to fight the cold.
So for that one, I found just the backing melody and everything was enough to carry, and Jacob Plant put this vocal with amazing processing and everything. I found it had a lot of room to breathe. So even though you can change your tempo, you know, even though like the tempo of the tunes that you're singing to can change, there always has to be enough space in whatever you're working with for the words to actually take place, because the words are like a synth in a sense, you know? All right, I'll go back to this. Here we go. There we go. So those were my two examples, kind of to make you smile, and the Rhythm of the Night was just to also make you extra smile. So did anybody have any questions, like at this point? Kind of like what kind of track works best for a vocalist? Or I know we have some vocalists on the line. Did you guys have anything? Like Sarah, did you have anything that you wanted to add, or does anybody have any opinions that they wanted to add?
There are no questions in the chat yet. So yeah, I think we can move along, and once they come through, we'll let you know.
Perfect. Okay. So now you've made your decision. You are either making a vocal track or you're going to add a vocal to your track. The one that I'm going to talk about here is when you're actually looking for the vocalist because you want to make a vocal track. For the other stuff where you want to add vocals as effects or as like an addition, a lovely addition to your tune, those sort of things you can find a lot of them online, and I'll tell you some of the places later that you can find them. But this that I'm talking about primarily are things to think about as a producer if you're looking to specifically make a vocal tune, okay? So think of the sound and texture. A lot of people think that they're just going to post something on Facebook saying, looking for a vocalist, and all of their friends are going to post different names and stuff like that. And then it's like, you know, you go through and you check things out. And I'm not saying that's a bad way, but I'm saying that's a really easy way. And does it really demonstrate you looking for your vocalist for your particular tune? So when you're thinking about it, you're like, I want like Rhythm of the Night, that would be a really strong vocal. You know, the other girl, Soren, she would be smooth. You know, think about the texture. Maybe you want something raspy, you know, or maybe you want something really clear. My voice has been called kind of whimsical, you know, it's not a really strong one, it's kind of flowy, that sort of thing. So think about it, because it's like, that's your lead instrument. So think of what you would use for a lead, and you're like, ooh, I want like this fancy lead or this fancy lead with whatever gear you're using. The vocal should be the same. You should like think about it in the same way, as you want to have a specific sound in mind, okay, when you're going to do that. As a producer, here's the other thing. There's a lot of people who want to make stuff and they have reference tracks and stuff like that. But can you actually produce the sound that you envision for this particular vocal tune? You don't have to. You can find help. You can have a vision, and you can talk to engineers and different people to help you finish off this vision. But you have to have a strong vision and confidence in your production skills, that you're actually going to be able to do it. Because I can produce a tune and I can produce vocals, but putting vocals in a tune, that's a complicated thing for me. And it might be a complicated thing for you guys too, because getting everything right, getting everything balanced, EQ'd, for me, it's really hard to hear, because I get like, it's hard for me to hear. So I've only made a few tunes with my own vocals, because first it like drives me crazy to hear my voice all the time, but but it also, it's finding the balance within the music and the whole production. So can you produce the tune that you envision for this? And then when you find the vocalist, do you know what you want this tune to be about? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You know, I've had people come to me and say, I've lost a loved one, you know, will you write vocals and sing vocals to commemorate this? Or, you know, I broke up with somebody, or a variety of different reasons why people want to make songs or tracks or tunes or pieces of art that include lyrical compositions and songwriting. So talk about it when you finally, you know, are ready to talk to your vocalist and whatnot. What do you want your tune to be about? You know, you can even think about things like words you don't want. Like I even had a producer once, when I did it, part of the vision, he was like, I don't want the word love. Not because he's not a loving person. He very much is a loving person. But he just figured that word was so cliche and so run-of-the-mill that he really didn't want to include it in his track. And that's a great tip for a vocalist to know, like, because then you don't do something and then you don't have to do rework, because you guys are all on the same page. Does that make sense? You're on the same page. So now you're making a vocal track. You have decided, you've got your track and everything, and you want to make this a collaboration. There's a very big list. So how do we find one first? There we go. You could put it on social media in your status, but I would suggest that you search for it. Search for it yourself. Search for it in the way that you search for the right sounds and the right perks. Don't just do something because it's easy, because if you do something with a vocal because it's easy, it's just going to quite possibly end up online being one of those tunes with the vocals where somebody's like, did it really need that? You know, so put some time and thought into it. Don't just email somebody because they're a vocalist. Email them because they have the sound texture that you want, and you know that you think that they're going to work right for your tune, for your vision. This is your art. It's really important. So one of the places, Vocalizer, I don't know if you can see my mouse here, Vocalizer, and this one is Looperman at the bottom. That's another place. Social media, you can find people. You can usually go through like a little rabbit hole and click on hashtags and click on links and whatnot. You can find stuff that way. But then there's actual sites. So Vocalizer and Looperman. I do know a lot of vocalists who've put their stuff on there, and I even dabbled a little bit in Vocalizer. You can find different sounds, you work out the payment, they handle everything for you. Looperman, it's more like you give the person credit, or you work it out if you want to release it or sign it online to any distribution or something like that. So they all have their different ways of getting in touch or taking care of the vocalist, I guess you could say, and the producer's needs both at the same time. Personally, I haven't found tons of success on them just because it isn't necessarily my sound. There is a lot of like trap and rap and really like down-tempo stuff, maybe country, all sorts of, like if you love to sing, go check it out. You know, if you love to sing or if you love to produce a variety of different things, absolutely go check it out. For me, I've kind of found my niche at this point. So I think if I started doing drum and bass or something like that, you guys might be like, hey, what's going on? And, you know, we're all allowed to have changes and stuff like that, but you get to know what your voice does. You get to know its market, I guess you could say. So I'm going to stick with progressive house and deep house and the houseier stuff. And last but not, oh, sorry?
Amber, I just want to ask, if I have a certain topic that I want, I want covered in my track from a vocal perspective,
yeah,
would you recommend that I, write out the exact lyrics that I want? Obviously, I'm not a songwriter. Or do I kind of provide the vocalist with the topic and leave it up to them to be creative and make it work? I'll let you answer that, and I have a follow-up.
Okay. For something like that, I think that if you had a plan already when you were creating your track, so if it was like something to memorialize something or something very special, that is something that, if somebody writes to me and says, I have this really special track and it has special meaning and these are the lyrics. So for example, the other day, somebody sent me a tune that they want me to redo the lyrics that somebody else wrote. So that's something you talk to your vocalist, because sometimes vocalists have no problem singing other people's lyrics or the producer's lyrics or whatever. And then sometimes they prefer to do it on their own, because that changes the publishing rights and that changes, who owns it and who wrote it and stuff like that. So that is definitely something. For me, if I like the tune, I could name 2 or 3 tunes that I co-wrote with the producer. And I love the tune and the ideas were great. So it's just like, if you're working as a collaboration, work as a collaborative effort. But if you're a producer and you have a great tune and you want a vocal on it and the person is a singer or songwriter, you can easily just say, I would love to hear what you come up with, or send me the lyrics before you record, because sometimes people do that sort of thing, where they can check them. That's how I found out about the love word.
I'm glad you said that, Amber, because it's interesting to start from melody and then you add lyrics to it, because there's the other scenario where the poetry of a song is the beginning and the music kind of then fits under it, right? Exactly. You think of rap, it starts with lyrics, it's poetry, right? Yeah. You think of house, it starts with melody, and then you use vocals to enhance, to give it a mood. So you're bringing a vocalist into the track to enhance the mood of it, right?
Exactly. It is the vocal. Well, you are talking to a vocalist, so I might be a little biased, but the vocal or the message of your song is supposed to be the pièce de résistance of a vocal track. And how you use that and how much thought you put into that really, it makes a difference in the final product. It really, really does, in how you are able to communicate things. So.
And my other question is, would you say it's best practice to provide the vocalist with the melody or the actual music in advance, or can you also give them give them an idea, give them a certain tempo, and then fill in the blanks with the actual music?
I think that would depend on each vocalist's personal process, because we're kind of trying out two different things. I'm telling you how to communicate and collaborate with a vocalist for something, but at the end of this, the surprise is that I'm giving you a whole bunch of dry vocals and different vocals from vocalists to play with. So this way, you have the connections for people if you have tunes and you want to try something new, or if you want to build your tune off of something that's already done. So to answer your question, I always find it easier to talk to a producer and hear what they have made to see if words come to my head and then discuss the topic, versus me sing something and send it to somebody else, you know, because...
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. And quick disclaimer, everybody. If you decide to actually use those vocals in something that will be released, you do need permission from the vocalists.
Yeah.
But you have access to them to use them. But if it's something that will be officially released, you do need to reach out to that vocalist and get their permission first.
And all of their contact information I have included. So since we're doing this on a trust basis, we are being very liberal with them, and I think there's 5 or 6 different vocalists. 2 of the ones that I put in there have never been used. They're just like random ones that I had left over. And Zen Lilies, there's some in there that haven't been used. Like most of them have not been used for any. One of them is a cover for me, and one of them is Isabella, which I'm going to show you later. But every single one is something fresh and new for you guys to try out. So this is the word of mouth. This is the word of mouth part. It's different than fishing on social media. The word of mouth is, I'm guessing with the music art people that we're looking primarily more like housey kind of music. So the vocalists that we have vocals for you today are really, really fitted for kind of that kind of music. You could use them however you want, as long as you talk to the vocalist. But in my opinion, I got them kind of based on what you might actually use and enjoy, you know. That there is no rap. I'm sorry, but we can do rap. If you want to do rap, you can call me and I'll do rap.
Thanks so much, Amber, for the vocals. We really appreciate you doing that. So yeah, and we're excited to hear more.
Excellent. That's a big list.
Sorry, I have a question regarding the last point.
Yes?
Can I? It's okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Hi, Amber. How are you?
Good. How are you, Fred?
I'm fine, thank you. You were talking about when a producer send you melodies or a tune or the track or whatever, and you start to negotiate or maybe feedback to add a vocal to a new idea.
Yeah.
But have you ever made the opposite? I mean, maybe you have a big moment of inspiration and start to sing something, and then you say, okay, I need a melody, or I need maybe a percussion, I need something, I don't know, I need music for this vocal. And what did you do in this case?
Well, I started out as like an indie songwriter. So the stuff I'm actually going to show you, that exact scenario that you're talking about, is that I wrote something that's a little bit more a cappella, and I'm so close to the tune that I couldn't see beyond it, if that makes sense. Like, I'm so close to the a cappella and the down tempo kind of folky sound to it, I couldn't see beyond it. So my friend Waxman, I said, I got this vocal. I think I like it. It's a good vocal, you know, and I made this a cappella, but it's not going to translate. So he took it, and I'm going to actually show you the difference between what I made and my folk stuff in Ableton, and then his final version, or the like fourth from final, you know. So More often than not, I take in a tune because the producers who are making tunes that are looking for vocals far outnumber the people like me who are walking around pressing record and singing songs all day, right? So it's more likely that you'll get a tune come in from a producer asking, hey, I want to do this tune. And that's when I get into these questions here that I have on here, you know, like, and I think this is something all vocalists probably, I don't know what their questions are, but these are legitimately my questions right off the bat. And that it tells me if I can commit. What's the deadline? Next week. Sorry, I can't do it. Next month. Maybe. Next year. Absolutely. You know, that sort of thing. Is it a payment or a royalty split? So you get paid $200, and as a vocalist you disappear into the background after your stems are sent in, and you never speak of this again. You've been paid and that's good. Or you get the royalty split where you're considered, you know, a collaborator, or it's gone in through distribution that you get a percentage of whatever the royalties are for this. Okay, here's one. I don't think you guys, not too many people know about this, and it's like a big thing for me, is this a collaboration or a featuring? So if you put your names in as a collaboration on Beatport, it will show up as everybody's names, and it'll show up on mine for Beatport. If you put featuring, it'll still show up on Beatport, but it will not show up on the vocalist Spotify. So if you are a vocalist and you want your tunes to show up on your Spotify, you are able to find them and you can get them, but they do not, from my own experience with very recent tunes, if the name says featuring, it's not going to show up on your Spotify without a list. It'll still show that you're part of it, and that, you know, but it's not going to show up on your profile. So something that I aim for because of this change is that things be called a collaboration, just so that, you know, if you're looking to do a vocal track and the track wouldn't be the same without the vocal, then it's a collaboration. Bottom line.
Hey, Amber, I have a question.
Yes. Hi.
Does the royalties and payments and everything else, does it change in between collaboration or featuring? Is that sort of like bracket money wise, or
it is literally that is depending. You know, I have had contracts where I've signed that are 0%, straight up 0%, but they've done huge things. You know, there's stuff if, you know, if somebody uses like 3 of my words and just like oohs and ahs, and they make the track and everything, I really don't think that as a vocalist it's right to be a money grab or say I want 50% or something like that. Like, you have to be realistic. If somebody puts in 40 hours worth of work and you spend 4 hours in the studio, if it's oohs and ahs and a little bit of spoken word, I often take a less of a royalty split. If I put a lot of work into it, or if I'm a collaborator and I do the arrangement and I figure all that stuff out, that is a higher royalty split. So it's a case-by-case basis for this one. And that really is dependent. Like, you never have to talk about royalties if you pay someone off, you know, but a lot of vocalists and producers, like, they want to do this together. You know, it is a collaboration. So I don't want to say what a fair royalty split would be, but I have signed things for 0% and I've signed things for 50%. It depends on who you're working with. It depends on who the label is. It depends on a lot of stuff. But yeah, I guess average, I probably see 20-25%. I'm going to be straight up and say that's probably 20-25% on average, and they go either way. But that is, I guess that's about it. And then the producer would get 75, or if it's like a duo or whatnot.
Thank you.
Let me see. Sometimes you don't know what labels you're aiming for. Sometimes you do. That's always good because it's always incentive. Again, if you are aiming, or if somebody loves your tune from a specific label and they're asking for a vocal, then, you know, a vocalist, if it's a big label, might be like, yeah, I'll do your vocals for you and take 10%, because they know 10% on a massive label is the same as 40% on a small label, you know? So if you talk about where you're going, if you're going big or however you're going, who's writing the lyrics? That's something that you were talking about. Do you want the vocals arranged or just a dry stem? So I always ask, but I always arrange them as well, because we're going to continue and I'm going to show you what the stems look like, but you could send somebody a big stem and they don't really know what to do with it. They don't hear your vision. Some people, you can just send it to them and they have their own vision and they just want the sounds and they want the analog synth to it, and they'll create a masterpiece regardless. But some people, they kind of need to hear the idea, because maybe just pressing play on dry vocals doesn't jive with their vision, what they thought. So I always try and arrange things. Some people you're going to see in some of these vocals, some of them have effects on them. Some of them, mine are completely dry. I don't even put a compressor on it, so that you have as much space as possible for the producer to work with those vocals, add effects, change what they want to change. Like, it is the fattest, thickest, healthiest stem that you could possibly give them. Start with that. Okay?
Red light stories.
Okay. Honestly, that one is coming from voice notes. So if anybody tells you that you need $1 million studio to get a top 10 tune, I disagree, because that one was done through conversations on voice notes and having fun with that sort of thing.
Amber, do you have your compact traveling mic handy to show?
I do. Well, here, let me see. There we go. Did you see that? So this, we'll get into this. So since 2013, I guess, I got, can you see this? I got my little mic here. This is, I have it up on the screen. It's an Apogee. It's a condenser mic. It comes with, well, you can tell how old it is if I have this as one of my things to plug it in. Then there's this for phone, for your iPhone when you're on the road and stuff like that. And then my iPad, I'm just going to show you because I looked at it and I thought it was really funny. The app that I put up here is called TW Recorder. TW Recorder. For some reason, I got it years ago. This is on the road, okay? I'm not saying like if Hernan asks you to record a vocal, maybe don't use this. But I'm saying if you're out and about on the road, all of my tunes, here we go, guys. I don't know if you can see. Maybe you can't see. Can you see all that?
No, there's too much glare.
We see that it's a list of recordings, correct?
Yes. Okay. So if it's a list of recordings,
that's all on the road, just different ideas.
That's probably the first 5 years of my career in music.
Wow.
When I didn't have access to a studio like crazy. Like, this is like one of those first generation iPads. And this is, you know, you don't need a specific day or time to start doing this. My whole setup was created, you know, with hand-me-downs and a $200 mic. And at the end of the day, you need a good vocal stem. You need something really good to start with. So this room would be absolutely terrible to record vocals in, just simply because there's no padding. So if you have to look at your environment. If you're going to be, even if you're using this and you're on the go and you're going to be recording things, you need a padded environment to absorb the sound. You don't want any reflective sound. You don't want echoes, you know. This is why a studio is really good, because it's really like a controlled environment. But if you need to do something on the go, there are a variety of different mics. This is my favorite. It picks up amazing sound. It does. My release on Sudbeat was done with this. So when I say don't do it for Hernan, it was. But if you have access to a real studio, do it. It's just, don't stop yourself from singing, or don't stop yourself from being creative because you think, oh my God, I need to spend a fortune and I need to get all this gear. And, you know, even if you have an iPad, the new ones have GarageBand. There's where there's a will, there's a way. And when you realize that anything is possible to get your creativity out, then you realize there's no more excuses why you haven't done it, or why, you know, use what you have at your disposal. And producers have some little tricks that they can do to fix things up. So this is something you should see. This, I wanted to show you an example of what a pretty good looking vocal stem looks like. So as you can see, there's a lot of room at the top and at the bottom. There's no actual, like, this would probably be the loudest vocal word, or whatever that is. But as you can see here, it's in stereo. It's recorded in stereo, and there's a lot of room. So if a producer wants to turn it up, if he wants to turn it down, whatever they want to do with it, this is a healthy stem that allows a lot of movement either way in volume, okay, and just in play. All right, so this is where I have the video from Robert, but I'm gonna actually play it later because I want you to see like the full screen. So just trust that we have this coming from Mr. Handsome Robert Mason.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Robert Mason.
Okay, we don't want it to crash. I'll save that for the very end. Isabella, what he does is he goes through his full Ableton chain for the processing that he did on Isabella. So I'm gonna show that to you too as an example. This is a quote from Waxman. And I think probably I'm going to go to my Ableton sessions to kind of show you different variations after this. But these are his tips. He's somebody that I work with at Lynx Music in Toronto. I typically work with like Robert Mason and Waxman here on a face-to-face level. I do most of my stuff online. Everything is back and forth. Waxman, he runs Lynx Music Studio, so my studio that I'm going to tell you about later. He is, I think he's the general manager for that, but we actually go in and I hire him, and he's my engineer for some of this stuff because I want to make sure everything gets perfect. And some of the gear, you can't know everything. I spent 15 years singing. I don't know all the details about everything and all the buttons in there just yet. So let me see. All right, you know what? I'm going to show you my Ableton session, okay? Let's go through some examples. Okay, so those stems that I showed you, those ones were from this. They're also in the vocal pack. So if you remember that song by Everything But the Girl, and I miss you like the deserts miss the rain. Yeah?
Another classic, yes.
Yes. Well, that's what this one is.
Disappeared somewhere.
So that's my vocals. Okay, this is the tune that I sang covers to. This, the second stem, is the unmastered, unfixed up. This is where I cut it all up. So I literally lined it up to the tune. And then the bottom one is the final one that's gone through some processing so that it is a final and complete stem. So let me see. Can I move this over here? All right, let's see. Just so that you can hear like what things sound like. Like, I'm not a...
Like the deserts miss the rain.
There you go.
Could you be dead? You always were 2 steps ahead of everyone.
It's just subtle.
We'd walk behind as you would run. We'd look up at your house.
So this one, that's why it's really, really important to get a good vocal stem right from the get-go, because this one, because it was going out as a freebie, I said, Jacob, can you please like just double check, fix this one and make sure that there's no weird things because it's going out. And Zev, who just got a '2 release on Beatport, the track Mayo, he used these vocals for that one. It was just a freebie. And he used those, and I was just like, woo! So that's just one example of starting out with a good stem. I didn't even have anything on here, and I left this to an engineer. I think I was in Mexico at that time. So let me show you this one. So this is another example.
Amber, can I just ask one question quickly?
Sure.
Yeah, so with your reference track, are you constantly A-Bing the two and comparing them throughout the entire playthrough of this song?
Yeah, I'm not constantly, but I can usually hear, like, if I play them, I really like it when my voice stays sounding similar to what I give, if that makes sense. So I do A/B it, but I also realize that in production, like, none of us are perfect and there's going to be differences. So I guess I'm looking that it's kept its warmth. You know, I'm looking that it's kept its same kind of feel and that it doesn't sound more digital. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Thanks.
And not very often do I actually get vocal stems back that aren't produced. So this one was one of those. I said, you know what, I'm going to give these out, you know, as a free download. And I wanted them, you know, if I was away and stuff and I don't have the capabilities with even proper speakers or anything, I wanted them to be good to go out without worry. So I do a quick check, and if it sounds clear, warm, and not digital, I move forward with that. This is what an actual session looks like with me in the studio. This would be Waxman's track, and he does it twice. Sometimes we do it about 7 or 8 times, like just keep going like this, like duplicating it like that, just to keep it going. So all of these vocal stems that you see down here, they probably were lined up like this because I like to just keep going, keep going, keep going. So, okay, I really don't know. You might get some bad notes out of here, or you might get us laughing, or I don't know what you're gonna get, but we're gonna see. Let's see what happens. There's one.
I am back, I find myself here. We play the game and put aside fear.
So see, not perfect.
No one wins.
It's dry.
We disagree.
There's really nothing on there.
Open to new spaces.
So there you go. That is Waxman. He wrote the tune. He says, Amber, can you write something to this tune? And I said, absolutely. Let me see what I can do. I'm going to write something. I went into the studio and recorded with him. We wrote this like on the fly. Okay. Now, I took it away because we didn't get it finished, like as far as arrangement or anything like that was concerned. So as you can see, I probably took me about 3 or 4 months, but then I got it here where I took it away and I'm like, here's my idea of this vocal arrangement, okay? And I just put really simple effects for the idea. This one has tons of effects. It really has the idea of what I'm going for. These ones here is backing vocals.
Off the track, I let you get near.
Okay.
We played the game and put aside fear.
Heard this before, yeah.
No one wins. We disappear.
All right. So that, then, here I'm going to turn this all off, and I stuck it in here because this tune is now complete, and this is what he has done with it. Okay? All right. That from start to finish, it really, it's like making something pretty out of a conversation, you know? I don't have some absolutely special voice that magically sounds like the things that you have in progressive house music. Like it takes processing. What I have is some kind of divine gift to be able to write really easily, and this fearless something that gets the lyrics out of me and communicates with music. That's where I come into this. But the final beautiful results of everything is, like, as you can see, teamwork. You know, we go back and forth, and Jacob is somebody that I go back and forth with quite a bit.
It definitely sounds a lot. It doesn't take away, like, there's no frequency clash after all the work that he's done with it. So can you share with us each plugin on the vocal and the purpose of it, or what it does?
I don't know all the ones that he has, but like he had mentioned that he uses like Melodyne. Of course, there's going to be
A chorus, a delay, or was that on a different track?
Rob's going to show you all of these, like stuff that I put on. Like if I was to do this, I would go in here, I put on EQ 8, and I would take some of the lows out of my voice, you know, just a little bit, because sometimes that bassy thing, it kind of comes through differently. Think big speakers. Mm-hmm. Think big speakers. The other thing is I take a little bit of the headspace out of it. So the air, I guess you could say, my voice isn't super high. It probably sits in around here in these mids. So kind of EQing it to take out that extra sound or noise or the frequencies that you don't need. Mm-hmm. You know,
so it doesn't collide with all the other layers.
Yeah. And also another thing, like, sorry, I keep moving our screen back. For something like this, if you duplicated a vocal, which I have done and stuff like that, but they actually have the same frequency and everything is the same and the EQ is the same, you probably will get phasing. So you're not going to get the best quality. I'm not saying that you can't layer things, but usually when you layer them, you like add a little space, but just don't get things right on top of each other, because you will get phasing just like any other instrument.
Got it.
Okay, here is, actually I'm going to show you that folk song that I was telling you about. Yeah, let's see.
So while it's loading, when you layer your vocals, just be super careful to avoid phasing issues.
Pardon?
Can you speak louder, please?
Oh, sorry. Let me just move closer. So when you're layering your vocals, right?
Yeah.
I just need to be super careful because sometimes I've done that and I think I've like overdone it at times and I've just almost given up. Except for another day.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Nabiso's on the line. He's proud new owner of Honey Drops. So, here. So, yeah, don't let me see if I can do this. If you put them right on top of each other, yeah. I have done it and you do overdo it. So what I try and do is I really try and take out, if you are going to do that, because sometimes it does add like a nice element, but there's also stuff that you can do. Like you can add the chorus, you know, a little bit from in Ableton, or there's different effects that you can do to add more space to your vocals so that you don't actually have to layer them. What I would suggest is if you're going to layer something, layer them in a sense where it's like different melodies or different tones or different notes. And then the chances of you getting phasing are much less. So harmonies and stuff like that, absolutely. Like, I don't think you would have a problem. It's literally, once you do what I did, which I have done, I duplicate the track and it's exactly. And what I try to do with that one is change the frequencies, add different effects. You know, there are ways of making them work together. You can automate stuff that you're doing in your lead vocal. I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah? Okay.
Actually, answered quite a few questions I had.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I get really nervous about your question, guys, and if I'm not answering them like in as much detail as you're looking for or need, just shoot me an email or shoot one of the guys an email and I will find you a more in-depth response for everything, okay? So this is the last one. I mentioned to you, I forget, oh, Christ, you were asking, you said, do you ever come up with an idea and then give the vocal out instead of the music come to you and you write the vocal? Well, this is one. Me playing guitar.
I know.
Very clear and dry.
I know it's hard to take. Things can get a little hazy.
He's super mellow. And
they can get
I have my
a little crazy. My best friends think you're special.
Reverb.
They're not easily impressed.
You can always throw a tuner on there.
Because of you.
If you have
all we've been through.
If you had a stem that you didn't know what the vocals, what key they were in, you can always throw that tuner on there. And it'll tell you when you're singing.
You're the light in my dark.
What keys you're in, okay?
You're the light.
So you guys get the idea. That is kind of like my a cappella love song that I wrote for Robert. Because we don't always want to do techno. Sometimes we want to sing from the heart, right? So that, as you can tell, is pretty mellow, and it's going to go out on Honey Drops. But then you have this. So I said to Jacob, I love this tune. I really want to make a dance mix version of it. I don't even know where to start. You know, do you want to hear? And I just sent him this session because when I was in the studio, there's like, this is the guitar, this is the bells, I have a sitar, the birds, I don't know if you heard, and then I add stuff at home and everything. So I send it to him, and this is what he comes up with. One sec. Why isn't it doing it? Oh, here we go. So for that one, you can totally tell that he did, like, he changed my pitch. He probably has a saturator on there. He has EQ. He has that vocal so shiny and clean in this particular tune. And I guess the comparison would be in mine. It's got that warmth, like if I was sitting there singing to you in front of you kind of vibe that they would have for folk music or indie music, because that's where I come from. And then you have the one with the effects from the producers. So literally you have heard it right from my computer, exactly what it comes from me. And then I've given you some examples of, you know, where things are headed or where they're at, like once everything's gone through the processing machine. So each producer is going to have their own sweet spot way of doing things. I'm working mostly with stuff in Ableton just to keep it simple, because you have, you know, your whole effects rack and stuff like that. And no matter where you are, if you are an artist and a musician, you never know where inspiration is going to strike you. So it's really good to learn how to work in the box, because it's really portable. It's really good to have like portable stuff. You know, even your voice notes on your phone, I wouldn't highly suggest them because they come out kind of like, but you can still do it. Whatever you can get your hands on to create, don't think of it as its last stop. Think of it as just the beginning of things that you can actually do with it. So, did somebody have a question?
There's just a lot of love for you in the comments, Amber.
Really?
Yeah. Wonder Koi is saying amazing, love it. Sarah Shalante is saying Amber is my queen of vocals. Good, thank you, Amber.
Oh, you guys are gonna make me cry. Oh, shucks.
Question here, guys. Just as an idea, what's the difference between a vocal stem and a vocal arranged? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. What you're looking at right here, this is my vocal arrangement. So literally, here, I'll actually show you. Here, let's take this out. That is what it looks like arranged. This is your vocal stem. So arranged is to the music. This one is to the music. I've literally cut out, see all these things here? I cut out the breaths every time, like for every time. There's even like timing that you figure out for arranged stuff. It doesn't look like much, but in the end, even just this, I don't know if that should be there or not, but it could be that there's a delay that carries, or there could be something, you know, whereas this, a vocal stem, you could get a vocal stem arranged. I usually send arranged stems. So what you would do for something like this, that would be my vocal stem. You'd solo it, go like that, and then just render it out. And then whatever comes out, I don't want to do it in case I crash my machine, but the final piece that comes out is your vocal stem. And this one would happen to be an arranged vocal stem. The ones that I showed you on my trusty iPad here, they are not arranged. They're literally me singing away over and over and over and over again, the same thing, working it out, hitting the notes, going in the background. So That's the difference. The arrangement is, the recording is the idea and the performance. The arrangement is taking the time to fine tune it in your vision. In the end, when you send an arranged stem, the producer can do whatever they want with it, or a lot of them come back and, if they make too many changes or whatnot, they're usually like, I changed it, I hope you're okay with it. The one thing that is kind of disappointing as a vocalist, I will be honest, is we tend to write songs. We tend to write things from the heart, and we tend to put about as much emotion into the words, lyrics, and songs that we're writing that maybe it's like EQ instead of IQ that we put into it. But I would say that a vocalist gets really married to his or her songs, if that's fair to say. So sometimes it really sucks when you work really hard and you create this arrangement and, you're like, this is friggin' cool. I can't wait to send this to the producer. You send it to the producer, you almost throw up a few times being like, do they like it? I hope they like it. And then you get a tune back and all you have are oohs and ahs and like 4 words. And you wrote a whole song.
It's kind of like reading the book versus watching the movie, right?
It is very much like that. And that's something I used to get really like, I didn't understand it, I didn't understand it in the beginning why somebody would say, hey, will you do vocals or something, and then take it all apart and just use like a few words. But that is the chance you take. And that is where we go on communication with a producer. Like, I don't love it when my vocals are pitched down to make me sound like a man. It's happened quite a bit. Red Light, that's completely different. That was made for effect. And if you know what that tune is about, it's perfectly placed, that pitch down, but there's certain things that if you have an open communication with the producer, you can be like, I don't really like that. Or, a lot of times Jacob will probably send me 3 or 4 different revisions of the tune, and I'll be like, okay, I think the vocals need to go up here. Let me just send you a new stem because I want to move this over. And I don't think that, literally it gets down to, there's a part at 4 minutes and 32 seconds where it goes, it gets that detailed for the last final revisions. And as much as you can send your stuff to producers who don't want to continue that collaborative effort, it's always so enriching and fulfilling and amazing when you can work with a producer who looks at you like a teammate to get this done. Like Lanya, when we were doing Red Light, we were teammates. He asked me about everything. He asked me, I have been getting examples of that one. They started as like little videos of his screen playing things, and then it was like a little clip, and then it gradually longer and longer. And I think there should be less like take the synth and go, and it should be more collaborative, because a lot of vocalists are producers, first of all, and they actually have the ear, they actually have their way of doing things. And just because I'm not producing vocal tracks all the time, I still have the ear. I can still tell you where things are off and whatnot. So I think having an open conversation with your vocalist is super important, guys. Like, it's a really...
What I found really interesting about Red Light, Amber, is that it's not a lyrical song. It's not a song. It uses vocal elements.
Yes.
Just at the right place.
Yes.
To lift you into a mood. Yeah. And we all know, right? We all know the backstory, but I mean, it's so well pitched. It's so well put in there, and and there is a little bit of effects that they use.
It's like, all the... Lonnie is a master at that, and that is something like, I don't even know. Let me just see. certain little things that you can do. You can actually make vocals into a sound on its own. Like, you know, you can extend it like this. I don't even know what this is going to sound like, but there's different things that you can do, and that's kind of what I think he did. Oh, maybe it didn't go. Sorry. Yeah, let's see what that does. Okay, maybe that wasn't the best example, but there's certain things that you can do to make those glitchy sounds. You can, you know, you can automate things. He probably took it, he probably pitched it down. So maybe something like this, he was like, oh, I'm gonna pitch it down, you know. Let's see what that sounds like. You know, just play with it. Play with it like you would any other instrument.
Amber,
And not,
I just want to mention we have 20 to 25 minutes left.
Okay.
Just for a time check.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much almost done. Let me just see my little PowerPoint here for you guys. Let's see where we're at.
Always go back to the PowerPoint.
I know, yes. Here. Except my mouse isn't working properly to like do it. Well, that's silly. Oh, resume slideshow. There we go. So here is my gear. So this is at Lynx Music. Lynx Music, information is right there. You saw how simplistic things are for me when I'm at home. Robert and I have other mics, and he has a pile of goodies and stuff like that. But we live on a very, very, very busy street in Toronto. And for the longest time, I had to actually, instead of cutting out breaths from my voice, I had to cut out sirens. So, so happily, I moved over here to Lynx, which is just up the road from my place. This is my little room. Everything that I could possibly ever want is in here. It's affordable. It's probably, I think it's $22 an hour, you know? So I do a lot of my work at home. So if I'm producing or whatever, I do a lot of my work at home, and then I bring my sessions here because they have everything that I could need. Or I start my sessions here, record my vocals and stuff like that, and then take the rest home to finish it. Okay? So I use Ableton. There's a beautiful interface there. Probably makes it sound really warm. It's super fancy and expensive. I have a Sapphire, which is really simple, here with me, and Robert has a Babyface at home, and then he has like a really fancy one, but I do know that we use the Babyface, and then I have the Sapphire here. That one's the Apollo. Headphones, sometimes I use them, sometimes I use my own. Mine are Sennheiser's HD 2570. They're my DJ headphones, so watch if you're using DJ headphones to check your stuff, because they're usually kind of like bass heavy, or you're not going to get a super amazing mix out of them unless you really know your sound. So even just playing your tune, your vocals and something through car speakers or crummy speakers or your computer speaker, you're going to hear a lot of mistakes come out really easily, whereas sometimes they will make you think that you have more bass or more frequencies or something than you actually do. MIDI keyboard, so I do use Complete Control. There's everything in there. All the soft synths and everything is in there. I just bought a new synth. I rented a Korg Mini Log for the last little while, and I just bought a new synth. It's an Ultra Nova, so it has actually a vocoder. I didn't get a chance to like put it together for you guys today, but it's excited to try that out. See, that's for my music art people show. So I'll be like playing, singing, vocodering, DJing.
I can't wait. One day.
Yeah, as soon as we can be. You know what? I'm actually touching the screen right now, and I'm touching your faces, guys. There you go. A little bit of social contact right there. Again, I do not own any of this equipment, but I sure as I'm happy that I have something like this in my area. One thing that I okay, the preamp here, it just makes it sound really, really warm. Okay, you don't need a preamp or anything. This is a condenser mic. Everything's already built in and stuff like that. But that preamp that we have in the studio, it just adds like a warmth to it. I'm not saying you need it. I'm just saying it's really nice to have. And then as far as the microphones, so my favorite is the Neumann U87. I have been using that since 2004. That was like, and even then it was considered like vintage and old school. You can get usable vocals out of any mic, but if there's something really like, I started getting into being an audiophile so much and loving like a good waveform and loving just like heat and sound and intonation. Like I love it when a mic is so clear that when you go, you can hear that. You have to take it out, but I love that warmth. So the Neumann, it probably was a selling feature for me going to work at the studio, because I was like, yes, because they're probably about $3,000 or $4,000 each, I guess. Definitely over a $2,000 mic. And then the Flea is the one I think that's in this photo here. It is kind of like a new rendition of the Neumann that they had. So apparently kind of supposed to sound like it, either or. Personally, I use one just because of the brand name, that I've trusted it, and it's always been part of my sound or texture, any chance I can get. But the other one, it's still a very, very expensive piece of gear, and it's beautiful, and it gives like a really nice warmth to your voice. So I don't know how to explain it other than this one's like a hug from your aunt, and these ones are like a hug from your mom. If that makes sense. If that makes sense. So that's what that is. And again, you don't really need a studio, but you do need a place where you can creatively lock yourself up, because when I sing, I don't rarely do I write lyrics beforehand. I'm at a place now where producers say, hey, do you want to do vocals? And I say yes. And then they just trust whatever comes their way. And if they don't like it, we have an agreement that I send it off somewhere else, right? So what happens is I come into this place, I have the tune that I've listened to. So usually by the time I listen to the tune, I know kind of the subject, or at least have like one line, just like the theme. I have the theme in my head, and I go in here, and that's why I do it over and over and over again, because it's really easy to be clinical and structured about this stuff, but when you're dealing with vocals, the more you're able to let go. The first time somebody's singing on a stage, their first song or two might feel a little bit forced, but by the time they get into their fifth or sixth song, they're belting it and they're hitting high notes and they're feeling so much more comfortable. So the same thing with me in the studio is I rarely write things out. And what you hear come out of my vocals and lyrics is literally improvisational, with simply a little bit of headspace beforehand being like, I'm going to sing about this today. And then I just go into the studio and keep going until I have all the takes, and then I arrange everything from there. Do we have any questions? I can see the yellow-orange thing go up, so I want to be sure.
Yeah, Wonder Koi, you had some questions?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, if you had to estimate and take a guess, what do you think this whole setup might cost?
Ooh. This one?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh darn.
12K maybe?
A lot. Well, just the mics alone, you're probably looking at about 8K. So you're looking at, that's not to mention like the speakers are probably maybe $1,000 or more each.
I'm going to just put in a quick plug here. There is a studio at the corner of Rideau and Chapel for people who are in Ottawa. I don't know if they have exactly the same thing, but it's worth checking out. I've been to them a couple of times to clean up things that I wanted to clean up.
Yeah.
And it's like $50 for a half hour, but they'll work with you.
That's what you need, right? You need places that you can go, even if you have your own place at home. Thank you for sharing that, Elaine, because I don't know of any places here in Ottawa. Coy, you can come meet me. Come meet me at Lynx when I'm back in Toronto. You know, come check it out, because they have various rooms, and a lot of studios have different rooms with different gear. Even in here, like a lot of places you can bring your own stuff. This Lynx also has, here I'm going to do that. Lynx also has an ISO booth. So some of these places, maybe, Elaine, does yours have an ISO booth or like a soundproof booth?
Yeah, I mean, and plus this one is in a basement. It's a corner, like there used to be a laundromat on the corner of that street, and it's like right next door, and it's the basement. So it's pretty insulated.
Good. That works out perfectly, because you're not going to get any ambient noise, and that whole, like, what does a good vocal look like? A good vocal also means that there's not any bleed from anywhere else. So having a good quiet environment, and it's always nice to feel like you're in a little pod, you know, like a creative space. It doesn't, if it's closed in, I don't know, I think we're kind of like animals where we like our safety and our spaces and, you know, soundproofing and like our little pod to get creative. So if you find Coy's laughing.
I would get claustrophobic, I think, but whatever, to each their own, I suppose.
I won't put you in the ISO booth in Toronto, but you'll be totally fine with and if the production room is too small for you, then there's a control room where they actually have room for like 8 people, or we could have a band that we record. So
yeah, cool, let's do that.
Whatever makes you feel best, just make sure that you don't have flat walls, that you don't have reflective sound, that you're not getting reverb from the back wall. You know, a studio usually has paddings on the wall and stuff like that to kind of avoid that, or it's completely soundproof. So a studio is made for that sort of thing. You can't really go wrong with that. And if you're at home, you know, honestly, I have gone in the closet and sung into my clothes for some tunes. I've thrown comforters over doors, you know, and hid under the comforter with the, you know, like this right in front of me, just to absorb the sound, depending where you are, because you don't want that reflective, echoey, tin sound. I can't even use the right words for it.
Yeah, it's all about being creative and making it work at the end of the day, right? Whatever you have, be resourceful and make it work. Amber, so we're excited to see Robert Mason's video. Were there any other slides left?
Yes, let me see. I'm gonna stop this. Actually,
it went black on us somehow.
Okay, I just have one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's just say, I mean, I'm not producing a track, but I like the vocals on a particular track. I know the artist. I ask him for the remix pack, and he sends me the remix pack, and it's got the vocals, right?
Yep.
And as a DJ, I want to use those vocals in a prog set.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What would you say I should do to make sure that it's falling clean?
Well, good question, because some of the vocals that you get in this vocal pack actually belong to Modern Agenda. So for something like that, if you have a contact at the label, then maybe contact the label, or you can always talk to whoever the vocalist is, and they can ask, because I know what you're doing with some of your stuff, and it's mostly like using an a cappella over some of your own pieces and everything, right?
Yep.
Let me just see. So for something like, do you know the label? Do you know the label it's on?
Sometimes it's self-released, so there is no label, but I know what you mean. You'd have to go through the label.
Yeah. For your mix, here's the thing. I think for your mixes and stuff like that, like, you have a little bit more leeway, because you're not actually trying to produce a tune that's going to gain you royalties. people get really touchy when there's money involved, I guess, sort of thing. So something like that casually, if you're like, hey, I just want to use your acapellas, or I want to do this and that with my mixes, a lot of vocalists are really like, thank you very much, and very, very appreciative with that sort of thing. But the label, you know, just let the label, if you know somebody at the label, let them know what you're...
And you're always giving them credit, Elaine, so it's, you know, you're
Yeah.
doing your part.
Totally. Even just a tag is more than what some people do. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Let me see if I can get this.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey guys, what's up? All right. So, I have this video here. This is Robert Mason.
You have to share your screen again. Amber.
Yeah. Oh, here. I'm too afraid.
Vocal too, please.
Huh?
Just also remember to click share vocal, computer vocal. Did you do that when you were sharing screen?
I did. So let me see if you guys can hear it, okay?
Hey guys, what's up? It's Robert Mason
You
here.
hear
I'm
it?
gonna do
Yes,
a
it's
tour of a
perfect.
track I did with Amber a couple years back called Isabella. This is the vocal that I used in my mix called the Always at Your Side mix. And yeah, I'll take you through how I kind of got to that final product. So very first thing, we'll give it a listen. Just so you understand how I have it set up here, I literally just have the vocal. I've gotten rid of everything else because my computer was not loving the whole screen share and playing back a huge session. So what we're going to focus on is essentially how I sort of shrink down a vocal job, because I find that out of all instruments, if you're to look at it that way, they're one of the most complex. Obviously, the most complex waveform is the human voice, or one of them anyway. So, you know, it's a hard thing to, especially because it's very human, it's a hard thing to take control of and be able to, you know, get it to sit in the mix, and you end up with a lot of stems if you're not careful and all these kind of things. So here's how I do it. Essentially, I would have gotten the dry stem or stems from Amber, and then when I went ahead and worked on them, very first thing I like to do is get out Melodyne and just essentially lock everything to the key and be sure that I've got it so that it's going to sit in the track, you know, throughout, so that there's no surprises. It just makes mixing and editing and whatnot far easier later on. And this is a fairly standard procedure for most vocals, is to run through through Melodyne, because, you know, it's the technology we have nowadays. Most things, even the best vocalists and whatnot, are put through it. So once I've done that, and I believe I've already flattened it, yeah, I have. So usually how I work is, if I do that step, I'll focus, you know, as much as I can on just pitch, timing, and sort of getting it to sit right. And then I flatten it down. So by that I mean I'll typically freeze it, or I'll render out the stem. Depends. I mean, either's the same, pretty much. And then I've got something I can kind of work with. This is the big thing for me. So then from there, you can see, like, within the vocal, there are a lot of sort of things. You know, you've got peaks, and then you've got a couple things that aren't as loud and that sort of thing. So the next thing that I go ahead and do, sometimes I adjust that in the clip. If there's a loud section, I'll just cut it out and turn it down a little bit. But that can be tedious. You're doing that for a long time when that's the case. So try to work fast, work efficiently. So essentially, though, what I've got here is, if we give it a quick listen, let's see. So
You make me.
I apologize if it's clicking a little bit. My computer's not happy with me. But essentially, you can hear just from that little snippet, I've done some harmonic treatments. So rather than just, you know, run one straight vocal through a tune, I like to try and layer it and add a little bit of, you know, nuance, make it sort of special. And so that's what I've done there. I used Melodyne to essentially do some pitching and move it around and get a nice harmony going. And then again, once I've got it sort of flattened down, I tend to play with these sort of things. So here's some, like, vox bits, I call them. They're just little bits and pieces that I lived 1,000 lives before. Sorry, the vocals coming in. you can hear that in there, there's all these little goodies that I've essentially edited together. So that is once I've flattened down the file, got it in tune, I go ahead and I play with effects and I just kind of pull out the cool parts. So the next thing, let's see, we'll talk because I want to keep this short. One of the things I use is a de-esser just to keep some of those S sounds out of the signal. They're still there, but that's not a big deal because the de-esser tends to catch most of them, and then I do the rest with EQ. And so that sort of leads me to the next thing. It's looking at EQ. It's very simple. I tend to just cut out the low, because that will muddy up your mix. The more low-end stuff that you have, they tend to blend together and just get very blurry. So I typically keep that out of a vocal. I've got it here, what do I have it, about 120 to 250. That's pretty high, but usually around 200, something like that. And I'm not picky about it. I just know that I don't want a lot of thud in the vocal. And then the next thing is I've got the vocal rider on there just to sort of, again, catch some of those louder passages and keep them all sort of in the same ball game. And then finally here, I think I'm just doing a little chain with Neutron. Very simple. It's just like a simple voice chain, little EQ. I can pull out some problem frequencies, boost up the top. Compression's pretty straightforward. There's not a whole hell of a lot going on there. That's only a 1-to-1 ratio, as you can see. This one's probably a little more, just to keep it kind of glued together. And then an exciter, I put that on to give it a little shine, and it seems to do the job. And then overall, I put everything together. Like I'll get all these bits and pieces working together. You see here that I've clearly flattened down all these because I believe they were kind of a mess. So once I got it to a place where I liked it, I just froze it and flattened it because I know I can always go back in and pick it apart. And then lastly, just a little bit of stuff to sort of move it into the mix and have it gel nicely. So you can see I've just trimmed out the low end. I'm kind of making up for a little bit of extra frequencies in the mid-range, and then I popped the top a little bit. Nothing crazy. Here, I believe I did go a little crazy just to keep certain, that's a little extreme, but it was keeping things in where I needed them because they were kind of poking out as I was mixing the tune. So that just essentially sort of holds in different frequency ranges. And then finally, basic delay just to give it a little bit of life. Always a big fan of automating that. You can see I've got a little bit of stuff. And finally, by putting those all through that channel together, I get more of a glued effect, like a final effect at the end. And I find that in the mixing process, if you're mixing the tune, you want to be able to pull all the vocals out while you're doing the mix and then double check and whatnot. So that's just a really handy thing for me. I tend to group everything down when I'm getting to the finish line on a track. So that about wraps it up. Not much more to it than that. If you have any questions, please hit me up. Take it easy. Cheers.
There you go, guys.
That was awesome. There was a lot there. So I'm happy it's recorded. And everybody, this is going to be posted online. So you'll be able to revisit that if you wanted to go over the details.
For sure. Talk to you, Peter, or talk to me, or like anything anybody needs. If they want clarification, they know how to reach us.
Thanks so much, Amber. So everybody, any last questions, any ideas, anything you want to share?
Just want to say thank you for all your time and your love. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks, Amber. Amazing.
Thanks so much. This was a great session.
Thank you so much.
And so much inspiration too, so that's great. And that's why we create, right? Is we create to inspire. And I love the fact that you're sharing your creations, and really appreciate that, and appreciate some of the new people coming on the call. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll keep you on our lists. We'll keep you posted for future tech talks and future online events and things where everybody can participate. So really, once again, thanks to Amber. Incredible creations. Keep making that good stuff, and we'll hope to see everybody both virtually and in person as we roll on.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks very much, Amber. Thanks for demystifying all these things for us.
Well, thanks for having me. And I think you guys are going to send out the vocal stems, right? Afterwards to whoever after this?
Yeah, so we will have them sent within the next 24 hours to everybody who RSVP'd, and to all of you who are going to watch this in the future. There will be a link in the video to get a hold of those stems. So yeah, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you're a vocalist,
for everything, thanks for Amber. And yeah, any last words, Amber? Any announcements? Future tracks coming out? I'm sure.
I wish I was saying that I'm like leaving for London next week and I'm gonna be in Argentina next week, but
was that the plan pre-COVID?
We literally got stranded in Panama on our way to go on tour in Argentina, so that was kind of crummy. But here's the new take on things. Use this downtime to be as creative as possible. Tap in with really creative people such as yourself, Peter, like music art people, or like Deeper Dimensions from Toronto, or different collectives who you resonate with. If you're a vocalist, sing. Whatever, like, there's no better time than right now to do whatever the heck you want to do, because there's no rules right now. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to be anything. There's no rules in this world right here and now. So my only thing
nobody's perfect, so it's okay to things out, have fun, make mistakes. It could sound bad, it could sound usable, not usable, doesn't matter, right? And you just gotta be consistent. I think consistency is the hardest thing for people.
Just make a sound. Make a sound, any sound.
All right, I think on that note, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, Amber. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.